As it says here, my name is Geoff Holmes, General Manager of NAR Group here in Northampton. I just very quickly want to take you through a little bit about NAR Group and where we came from. And it was founded here in Northampton in '67. Don Goodwin, the chairman of the company, still comes in 4 days a week and repairs and renovates vintage radiators. And the guy is 78 now, so he keeps going. And his son is the MD of the company now. And we've had a little bit of running through on mainly automotive, and it was repairing automotive radiators in the copper brass days and so on. And then in '75, Don actually got to supply and manufacture and supply all the radiators for the original Aston Martin Lagonda, that big horrible square flat car that they made. And then and that carried on, and we kept doing that, and we kept supplying Aston through the years. And in the 1990s, we started working on aluminium radiators because they were now coming in, and the benefits of aluminium radiators are that they are lighter, essentially more efficient than copper brass radiators. So we started doing that. And we've really developed on from there, and we've continued to make aluminium radiators. And in the early days, we bought all of our radiator cores in from some of the big manufacturers that are out in the world there. And latterly, we've been making our own cores. Okay. In 2006, we joined the MIA, Motorsport Industries Association, and they have been the organisation that have been instrumental in getting us into the defence industry. But I'll talk about them just a little bit later on. Okay. And you see there we have successful cooling CVRT in Afghanistan. More importantly for us at the minute, we have production line, and we have 70% of the track at Gaydon for Aston Martin. So we provide all the cooling on engine and transmission oil for the DBS and the new Vanquish. And for the last 4.5 years, we did DBS, DB9 and DBS. Okay, so that's our main production line. Is that along with that, we've been into quite a lot of motorsport companies through the years, and we've been in and out. And the motorsport industry, as we all very well know, is a bit fractious. They come and they go a little bit, and some pay us and some don't, and so on, and we've all been there. So we drop some and we run with some, and we make some radiators and lose a fortune on it and so on. But having said all that, it gives us the technology that we require to drive forward our products and drive our innovation forward and develop products that actually work with modern engines and the demands of modern engines and modern speeds and everything else that's out there. Okay. So it says on there, we've done Formula One work, mainly development work on Formula One, I hasten to add. But we supply Aston Martin, Jaguar, Noble Cars, Steyr, and people like this at the moment. So and quite a few others as OEM suppliers. And down at the bottom there, the motorsport stuff, we do Aston Martin racing, Ferrari GT2 cars. That's the one we lose all the money on, it's Terra. A lot of historic racing and so on. Formula Nippon, we have the entire grid, I think 22 cars or so. We supply a company in California, they're then shipped to Japan where they race and crash them, and we send more out, which is really very good for us. Okay, so there's a little insight of some of the companies that we deal with there. Okay, but going on to our MIA thing, going back to 2006, as I say, the MIA invited us to a meeting down at Bovington to meet with the MOD. And at that event, a number of MOD buyers came along and spoke to us. There were people there from BAE Systems and many of the other groups, Thales, I believe, and so on and so forth were there. And we showed them our wares and said, this is what we do, this is how we do it, we think we can probably help you. On the back of that, we actually got an inquiry from BAE Systems, who were doing what they call an EM, which is an environmental mitigation on the CVRT range of light battle tanks, light fighting tanks. And they are the Scorpion, the Scimitar, and that range of tanks. It's a little track vehicle, weighs sort of 20-something tons. And that vehicle was designed in the 1970s, built, I think, originally by Elvis, if I remember rightly, and has the straight six petrol engine in it, straight from the Jaguar E-Type. Okay, and many of those vehicles, many thousands of those vehicles are out there still running around like that. to go into Afghanistan in these sorts of conditions, they required a new engine for it. And the diesel engine was supplied by Cummins. We were invited along with a couple of others to submit a cooling group to cool that engine, and against a couple of others we won the contract. Now, an important point here to note is that the OEM for that vehicle, the people who originally made that radiator for that vehicle and the charge air cooler, submitted exactly the same product that was in the original vehicle. Okay, needless to say, it fell over and didn't work very well. Another company that put their radiators in there, they sent 2 lots out and they leaked. So we won the contract because ours not only cooled the engine and survived, but actually cooled it well and worked. So we won the contract, and that was our very first incursion into the military world. And in fact, we did the whole thing from, and this was a UOR, urgent operational requirement, we did the whole thing in probably a little over 7 months. That was from original inception to getting them into theatre. Okay, so it was quite a challenge, but it was a direct fit for the original product. The beauty of our aluminium technology was that the original radiator took 2 people to lift it. Ours, 1 man could manage it. It cooled an awful lot better, and the charge air cooler made the engine run that much better as well, because it was of modern technology that we developed. Okay, so that was really our first sort of incursion into the thing. And as time went on, I suppose an important note here as well, we retained the IPR on that product. So for any of you going out there and producing anything like this, if you possibly can, if you can retain your intellectual property rights over the products that you're manufacturing, that will allow you then to offer that product to other people out there, because the MOD are not the only customer out there who are using these same vehicles. Okay, so that's an important, very important note, and you need to lay those rules down fairly early on if you possibly can. Okay, you get agreement from everybody that you can offer it out. Okay, but moving on a little bit more, we then went to several MIA events and kept in and found more and more people and more and more people and more platforms, as they call them, different vehicles turned up, and I'm talking exclusively land vehicles here now. Somebody said, oh, we have a problem with this vehicle. What do you think you could do with that? How would you approach this? A lot of it comes to nothing. Some of it, as we've just heard a few minutes ago, takes an awful long time to generate. And it's not unusual if you have a phone call and return a phone call to hear nothing for several months. And then suddenly the phone will ring, or you get an email saying, do you remember this? And we're working on this, and so on. Some of this stuff takes an awful long time to get through the mill. Okay. But all we did was we kept pushing and pushing and pushing, and we do MIA events, we do DVD at Millbrook event now every year. We've done DSEI as well down in London, and that pushes you into the front and the forefront of the customers. All the customers are there that you ever want to see. Okay. Going on from that, we then had a call from DE&S, who had a problem with the charge air cooler on Warrior, and they needed someone to remanufacture it for them. And the original manufacturer of it was no longer in business, or at least they're in business, but they didn't want to do it and didn't show any propensity to want to try to help. So we said, yes, we can do it. So we redesigned it, improved it, and for the last 2 and a bit years, we've been remanufacturing charge air coolers for Warrior tanks. They're great big things. It takes 2 people to lift them, and that's just the intercooler. Huge things. We strip them, rebuild them, recore them, repair them wherever they need doing. And what's now happened, of course, is that they're running out of what they call assets, because they're working hand to mouth, so we now have an inquiry for 50 brand new ones. Okay, so that's £150,000 worth of work, which is quite nice. Okay, this is how these things begin to escalate and are starting to snowball for us a little bit. Okay, so going on from there, we then had yet another call much later on now, probably 3 years ago now. We had another call from BAE Systems saying they have a vehicle out in Afghanistan, and there were 80 some odd of these vehicles out there, and the guys out there were refusing to drive them. And the reason they were refusing to drive them, because as soon as they got themselves out in these conditions, the engines boiled up. And what was happening, and hence the slide I did there, that's a picture of a radiator from a vehicle that's come out of convoy in Afghanistan. The radiator's filled with mud, dust, muck, anything else you can imagine, and the engine boils up. So they came to us and said, what can you do? I said, yeah, we can help you. We completely redesigned the cooling group for this vehicle. And pretty much really there is what we did with the whole thing. And we took the vehicle through trials, through tests, through Myra. In the climate chamber at the top there in Myra, I sat in front of the vehicle with a great big bag of flour, throwing it at the radiator to see what would happen. At 49 degrees inside and maximum solar load, very friendly, to try to prove that our cooling group actually would perform. And through all of that lot, and from August 9 to June 10, we developed that radiator, proved it, tested it, and delivered the whole lot to the fleet out in Afghanistan on time. The whole lot. Okay, that's a UOR and how it happens and how quickly it can happen. Okay, so less than 12 months from the original concept, and that got the whole fleet back on working and and performing for the MOD. And I believe the guys are quite pleased with it. Okay. Again, there's another couple of pictures there of how some of the testing that we went through. Okay, so we went through the full suite of testing, vibration, off-road testing, 20,000 equivalent road miles. Having said all that, the squaddies still managed to destroy 3 of them. But we figure they probably went through a 6-foot pothole at about 60k or something in order to do that. It just drove the radiator through the front of the vehicle. Okay, but no amount of engineering I think that we could do could ever stop that. The other thing that we haven't really, the other thing here, obviously at the bottom there you can see, the OEM radiator when it was clocked took 14 hours to clean. They had to remove it from the vehicle, soak it, pressure wash it, put it back in the vehicle. Ours took 5 minutes on vehicle. So from a maintenance point of view, and these are the sort of things that we look at, so we engage with the customer, find out what it is that they do and like or don't like about what they do, and we try to build into that something that will help them. And maintenance downtime was one of the real beefs. I think there are something on this vehicle, there's something like 26 different maintenance operations where they have to remove the cooling group. Okay, so we engineered the thing so that it can be removed from the vehicle much faster than the original one can, much more user friendly. We even put a tap on the bottom of it so they could drain it. It hadn't even got that. You used to have to take the bottom hose off. And if you're out in an FOB in the desert, the last thing you want to do is dump the engine water in the sand. Okay, so we gave them a facility just to collect the water. Little things like this, they all help. Okay, so this is where we engage with the end user, engage with the guys on the ground who are actually using the vehicles, find out what they like about them and build it in for them. Okay. So that for us was an extremely successful operation. And again here, the comparison there is with motorsport into defence in that the technology that we use to drive these radiators and cooling systems for these things we can apply very much to the military world. Okay, some of it happens really quickly, some of it happens much more slowly, as you've already heard. Okay. This is a little bit more about the Panther TES thing again, and there's the engine maintenance time. We're 45 minutes with our replacement one, where it used to take them 1 hour and 15 minutes before to remove and replace the engine. Okay, and just on this one now, and what's happened to us of late is that this vehicle was bought by BAE from Iveco Defence Vehicles in northern Italy, and naturally, because we recognised that there was a little bit of a problem with the vehicle, which Iveco refused to recognise, we heard all sorts of rumours from all over the place, and this gentleman here mentioned Norway, and the Norwegian Army is one of them that run a huge fleet of these who have the same problem. But Iveco refused to recognise for quite some time, but after about, I think, 4 visits to Bolzano in northern Italy, we finally persuaded the Iveco that they actually do have a problem with the vehicle. And the long and short of that is that we've had a vehicle of theirs now for 5 months in our premises, which we've been working on. We've redesigned the cooling group in that vehicle based on the technology that we used for Panther. It's different because Panther was done as a UOR and it was done extremely quickly, and we already could see that some improvements were needed. They came along to us and needed some extra bits and pieces on it as well. And last Thursday we were awarded a contract for 62 vehicles for the Norwegian Army, which is worth almost £500,000. Okay, and we start building those, by the way, in March and April of next year. Okay. We are also quoting and tendering them for supplying them with cooling groups for 200 vehicles a year, based again on the same technology. Now, this is not UOR pricing. This is going to be near on automotive costing, and this is obviously because we will then be dealing with Fiat Group purchasing, and Fiat Group purchasing being what they are, they're very much automotive. They very much screw you down to the floor for every penny. We know we have to sharpen our pencils, but we certainly have the capability of supplying that product into them, and we will work extremely hard to get it. There are a number of other products that we looked at. Supercat was on here. We've done work on Supercat, and that is because, again, the vehicle was designed to run in a 49-degree ambient. Suddenly the customer or the customer's customer said, actually, I want this thing to work in 55 degrees ambient, and this is becoming the new standard for military vehicles. So not only are they in the dust and the mud and the crap and everything else, but it's extremely hot. And that obviously impacts on pretty much every part of the vehicle. So for you people in this room, you know, you're looking at brakes, you're looking at cockpits, and anything, bearings, gaiters, you name it. These vehicles need them, and they probably need upgrading because a lot of them are running on old technology. And you've probably been reading in the press or heard in the press that they have this initiative, this 2020 initiative, whereby they want to get the entire forces, this is the ground forces, the fleets and everything else, up to full sort of battle-ready standard, if you like. They want a perfect fighting set. So the opportunity for us here is huge because all of the vehicles are largely quite old now. There are some newish ones, but nonetheless, I believe there's a desire there from MOD to upgrade and improve pretty much everything they've got between now and 2020. So there's a terrific opportunity there for all of us to take our technology, the technology that we have amongst us, to them and say, we have this for you, try it. And as another little example, the Warrior tank is being upgraded. It's having a new turret on it. It's designed to run and be 26 tons. I believe, I don't think I'm giving anything away because I think it was in the press, that at the minute it's hitting the 30-ton mark now with all its extra armour and bits and pieces. So suddenly that brings into question the power pack, the transmission, the brakes. All these other bits are probably going to have to be upgraded in some way or other. So these guys are going to need some help in order to achieve what they want from that. And so we will start pushing again for the cooling part. We have the charge air cooler already. We now want the radiator for the vehicle. And these are the sorts of things that we're working on. Okay, so that really, ladies and gentlemen, where we are. I suppose I ought to wave the flag a little bit. We were given 3 Chairman's Awards for innovation for Panther. We also won a Chairman's Award for the UOR on the CVRT range. We were Business of the Year in Northampton in 2010, and the MIA gave us an award as well in 2010, which is very nice of them. Okay. Quick snapshot there of some of the vehicles we've been working on, okay, and the people that we work with as well, and pretty much time for coffee.